So there tends to be kind of two schools of thought. When we talk about spinning plates, especially long-term plates, like more than 6, 12, 18 months, there's a particular gentleman who's, he's had this girl around for, I think, a little more than 2 years. He's like, well, she knows we're not exclusive. She knows that I'm gonna, date around, and maybe I'll commit to her one day. I said that I could potentially see a future with her and XYZ, and I'm sure that I'm butchering and paraphrasing.
Mhm.
But the opposing argument is, yeah, I think that's kind of like a morally rotten thing to do. You're never going to commit to this girl. She's waiting around for you, waiting for you to change her mind, and yet you're not going to commit to her, but you just like the free attention, you like the sex, you like the fact that she cooks, takes care of you, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other argument is, well, she can leave anytime. Like, the door is always open. She knows that she's free to go. She's free to walk.
Yeah.
So my particular stance on this, like, I used to be in the camp where it's like, I don't have a gun to these women's heads. They can leave whenever they want. They know that I'm doing things. They know that I'm dating around, and they're perfectly capable, sentient beings that are good and capable of making their own rational decisions. And I have slowly come away from that stance. And this is just my own pontification. This is not really based in anything that I've read or seen, but
Mhm.
it follows to me that if a woman truly sees you as her hypergamous best and you're number one, she's not going to leave. She's going to wait. She will wait around for weeks, months, years, potentially, thinking that she can get you to come around. Because if a woman is truly in love with you, everybody else is invisible. And so the only way for her out of that situation is if you are the one that cuts it off.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I had a major epiphany on maybe a couple of years ago, where I realized, and I would do that. Like, and if it was like 3 months in, 4 months in, I would have the where do we stand talk. And guys are pretty good at knowing whether a girl has potential for a long-term relationship or not, whether they're willing to continue vetting after a couple of months, right? Maybe after 3 months, you're not willing to, like, okay, cool, like, move in, be my girl, be my exclusive LTR. But after a couple months, whether the possibility of taking a girl serious is even on the table.
Mhm.
And I generally think that, guys, if it's 3 months, 4 months in, if you don't think the potential is actually there, or you're not willing to continue vetting her and she asks you where you are, I think that's where you break it off, because she'll wait around forever. She literally will not leave on her own. You have to do her the favor and put her out to pasture, so to speak. It's like what's 50, probably like White Fang, right? Like, the dog or the wolf is following him and he has to throw rocks at it until it finally goes away, because otherwise it'll try to stay with him and starve. So that's how I generally look at it. But there's other guys that are like, yeah, whatever. Like, she knows the deal. She can leave at any time. She's been around for like 2 or 3 years. And if I decide that I just want to leave one day, I will. But I am firmly in camp, break it off before, because she never will.
Yeah, I guess there's some dialogue that has to be had back and forth, and I recall the conversation now. I think it was Steve from accounting that actually brought it up and said, you should do a more detailed show on it. I was hoping a few of the guys would hop on the generals, but I get why they don't, because of their day jobs. Yeah, like, I'm in the original camp, Moff. It's like, you're honest with them. They want more, which they invariably will, right? Because when they find a guy that's successful and has resources, she's going to want to secure that. And the best way to secure that is with a marriage. The second best way to secure that is with a live-in relationship. And whether they'll admit to it or not, I think they know that there's a level of security that comes with a marriage or a live-in relationship, because a live-in relationship after 2 years here anyway is common law, and common law exists pretty much everywhere in the Western world. At some point, family law is going to decide what happens to your assets if you live together, if you don't have some kind of a cohabitation agreement. And one of the things that my family lawyer, who is single, he's divorced, he dates, he gets into long-term relationships, and if she ever pushes for more or insists on more, he'll just say, look, I'm just not prepared to go down that road. I'm happy with the way things are. Why do we want to change them? Basically, his model is long-term partner, but not living together, sort of thing, like together, but living apart. I don't know how you wanted to, break that down and define it. And he's smart because you don't put yourself in a position where you can be compromised, right? By just not living with her, by not getting married to her. Well, if you love me, then you would marry me, or my family's pressuring me, or you go to family events and like one of her nieces or nephews, comes up to you that they've set up. They set up these fucking kids to do this on purpose. They'll come up to you in front of everybody at one of her family events, be like, "Oh, so when are you going to marry her? When are you going to put a ring on her finger in front of fucking everybody?" Right? And it's
I got an Irish answer for
that. I want to hear that in a second. But it's like, if you dig her vibe and you get on well, and she's more or less a strong complement to your life with few red flags or no red flags, or if she has a red flag, she's working on it, and you're honest with her. Like, the way that I would put it is like, I'm not opposed to living together. I'm not opposed to these ideas, but I'm not doing it in Canada. And I'm not going to be in Canada for the rest of my life. I'll be spending less time here. So that might be on the table in the future. You basically laid it out. And if they don't like that, then they know where to go, right? You've at least been honest with them. What's your stance on that? What's the Irish stance, 50?
Well, it's just they used to do that to my uncle all the time with his long-term girlfriend back in Ireland, and he used to always answer, "But yeah, we'll get married someday. There's no mass."
Yeah.
So they get a confused look on their face and go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So
I think the caveat there is, I think the different, like living apart together, that whole thing. If she's down for the cause, if she's like, "Hey, look, I understand marriage isn't your jam. Don't want to invite the state into your life. That's fine. I'm cool with being the main girl," but that sort of goes into the part B of the conversation, where it's like
the monogamous part.
What kind of girl is going to be cool or accepting of a guy stepping out? And so, but I think my take of it is, if a girl's down with it, fine, whatever. And if she's lying about being down with it, then I guess that's her own fault. But I think for me, I've had relationships or situationships or long-term plates where I knew the girl's not cool with what I'm doing, and I know she's lying about being cool with it, or I know she wants more. And that's where the difference is. It's like, I know what I'm doing is bad for her long term, because what she really wants is to be with one guy and to be married and be in a monogamous thing. And she's never going to get that from me. And so
that actually reminds me of a very tight soundbite I bookmarked here on Twitter. Let me just grab it real quick. Because I try to keep these things organized for just such purposes. So who was it that said? Oh, there it is. It was Tate, actually. As a woman, you either give your man endless chances or you give endless men a chance. It's better to be stupid than a whore. I think he's right. If a guy loves you, takes care of you, looks after you, protects you, is willing to lay down his life for you, then he's a good man. Like, he loves you, right? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to leave him because he makes a mistake or he steps out one time and move on to the next guy who's going to probably do the same thing anyway, and the prior guys that already did the same thing anyway? Just be honest about who you are.
Even if she doesn't, right? I mean, I think one of the things I tell guys, not to cut off 50, but one of the things I tell guys when they ask me questions about stepping out, I say, look, if you really are that guy, I think the chance that she leaves you is probably slim. What you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to decide if this result is worth the risk of you stepping out. If getting the exercise is worth it, it's going to fundamentally, materially change the way she acts towards you. There's going to be issues. She's going to nag more. She's going to be worried about trust. She's going to be worried about X, Y, Z, ABC. Maybe you went from she would never demand to ever ask any of these things or go through your phone, and now she's asking those kinds of questions. And it's just, you still might draw hard boundaries. You still might say no. You still might have those lines in the sand. But are you willing to listen to the increased amount of insecurity, the not knowing where we stand, dealing with the tears and that sort of thing? And because that's the biggest thing you're going to have to deal with. I mean, she might leave, let's be honest. But if you really are that guy, that's the other part B of the conversation, where it's like, I don't think you can actually show me a woman that is like, okay, yeah, go get some exercise, I'll be here when you get back. It's a begrudging acceptance at best. It's not an endorsement, but that doesn't mean you're not going to hear shit about it when you come home. And if that's what you're going to, if getting strange and putting up with nagging is on your bingo card, then I guess have at it. But
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
put it this way.
guys have to understand.
Yeah, I'll put it this way, because Moff, you're right about that. I've seen pickup artists who sell courses that put out content, brag about how their girlfriend lets them sleep with other women.
Let's them.
Yeah. But I've also heard private recorded conversations of guys that these men have had on, FaceTime or WhatsApp or Skype or whatever, where they've been recorded, where you hear the same pickup artist complaining about how their girlfriend's violent towards them, beats them, abuses them, takes advantage of them. So like there's always a story behind the story, right? You're right. Like most women don't want a guy that's going to exercise his. It's so fucked up, because the whole like Mano Swamp like movement is, built around these notions that, a woman would rather share a high value guy than be saddled with a faithful loser, which is true. That a woman would rather,
maybe she'd rather buy this much, right?
Yeah.
It's not, maybe the gap isn't that wide.
Yeah.
Maybe the gap is like right here.
or she'd rather date a married guy than a guy that lives in his mom's basement, which is also true, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's women's psychology, like women's behavior is duplicitous. It's deceptive. If you want to see how disgusting women can be, read Sperm Wars by Robin Baker. Women have like, as a man, when you ejaculate, there's three distinct kinds of sperm that come out. There's egg getters, there's blockers, and there's killers. And 2/3 of what you're shooting out is not designed to impregnate the egg. It's designed to combat what's already in the reproductive tract from another guy. So women aren't particularly honest with men. They conceal their ovulation as a function of evolution and to procreate the best genetic seed that they can get. There's no right answer to this on how to handle it. The right answer, in my opinion, is you do what's right for you, be honest about it, and set your life up in such a way where you don't expose yourself to unnecessary risk. If you have a good gal that's in your life that's a compliment to it and continues to add value to it, treat her well, be a gentleman, right? But just be honest with her about who you are and what you are. And if she wants to go, let her go, right? I've also said this as well too, is if a woman locks down a high value guy that's willing to give her that monogamous commitment, you better fucking treat him well. You better treat him really fucking well, in fact, because those guys are extremely rare. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here and pin down below in the top comment. You'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.